Storytime about how I found my uncle sleeping with my best friend. So a little background information. I was 18 at the time and a freshman in college. My uncle was a National Guard, and we were the same age, we went to the same school, and we also had the same friends. And while he was away, I had made one friend that he didn't know about. Her and I became best friends, we got into the same college, and we were in the same dorm room together. Well, the one day my uncle came to my college to surprise me. I ran up to him, I gave him a big hug, and my best friend was super confused because I had never introduced them. And when I introduced them, there was this weird, awkward vibe. So all three of us went back to the dorm room, and I asked her if it was okay that he spent the night, because I didn't want to be that person to just invade her space. So she ended up saying yes, and eventually we all got really hungry, and we all wanted Chick-fil-A, so I went and I left them all alone in the room together. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how I found my uncle sleeping with my best friend. So like I said, I went to go get us Chick-fil-A and I left them in the dorm all alone together. While I was waiting in line, I called them to ask what they wanted and nobody answered the phone. So I was like, okay, whatever, it's fine. They're probably just busy talking. So I low-key took a long time because I went to the grocery store to get some cookies. I was just craving them. So then I get back to the dorm room. As soon as I open the door, I see both of them unclothed on top of each other on the bed, doing the nasty. So for some reason, I had a broom and I threw it at my uncle and I went to my friend's apartment that night. And when I told my mom about it, she said that it was my fault because weirdly enough, they praised all the boys in my family.
Am I wrong for wanting a painting made by my late sister in my house, even though it triggers my husband, who's her widower? I, 34 female, had one sibling who was 25 when she passed. She died in a car crash just 3 months after her wedding. It has now been 12 years since her passing. We were very close and more like best friends and then sisters. My now husband, 38 male, Adam, was a constant presence in my family's lives even after her death, as he would visit my parents regularly and they dote on him very much. 5 years ago, we started getting close and got married 2 years later. My sister used paint as a hobby and had left behind 8 paintings. My parents took 2 for themselves, I took 3, and my parents gave away the rest to her close friends, and they offered Adam to take any he wanted, but he refused. I really liked the 3 paintings and displayed them in my apartment proudly before getting together with Adam, as I felt closer to my sister, but once we became a thing, the paintings seemed to upset him, so I kept them in a storage instead. I understand everyone grieves differently, and for Adam, anything associated with her triggers him, and he goes back to that awful day when he found out she was gone. We have no pictures of her at our house or any memento left by her. All this time I've been understanding, but I feel like I've completely erased her from my life and brought up the subject of displaying one painting to commemorate her in our house the other day. Adam shut the idea down immediately and refused to even hear my side. I was hurt by this as I've been considerate to him all these years, but he didn't even think to consider my feelings about the situation. It worsened when I suggested grief counseling together today, which made him even more upset. He wasn't yelling, but he was clearly distraught by me continuing the subject. He said he already went through grief counseling and my insistence is just opening old wounds. I was angry at the time and told him why did he ever consider marrying me when the thought of her makes him this upset and knowing how much she meant to me. He told me he can't handle me or this conversation anymore and went to his brothers to cool off as he doesn't want to say anything he'll regret later. Now all alone I'm thinking I might have taken things too far. So am I wrong here? Ew, that's so weird. Am I the only one who thinks that's like nasty? Like, yes, you're wrong. You're wrong.
Storytime about how he cheated on his baby mama with me. So a little background information. There was this boy and we're going to call him John. John and I knew each other through one of our mutual friends. Well, 24/7, John would post sad quotes on his Snapchat story because him and his girlfriend had just broken up. So I decided that I was going to be Captain Save-A-Ho and be there for him, telling him it was okay and that everything happens for a reason. Well, eventually John had developed a huge crush on me. Like, he would flirt with me 24/7, sending me all these cute emojis. And of course, my dumbass fell for it. So after talking for a little bit, him and I started dating. Well, the one day I was on Snapchat going through his story, and he was posting a bunch of funny memes on his story, and I was just laughing until I got to the last thing that he posted on his story. It was this picture of a baby girl saying, "I can't wait to meet you from Dada." So with my crazy ass, I jumped on the phone and started cussing him out. And then he goes, "What are you talking about? That's my little sister." Like for part 2. Part 2 about how he cheated on his baby mama with me. So like I said, when I confronted him about it, he said that it was a picture of his baby sister. Always with the Alabama shit, for what reason, I don't know. But he calls me the next day and he starts apologizing about everything. And then he decides to make a new Snapchat account and starts talking to me on there, thinking that I was just gonna block his other account. He posts a picture of his baby mama. So at this point, my Virgo self and I were done with the bullshit. By the way, he's a Gemini, so if that doesn't explain it, I don't know what will. So I start dating my new man, and I commented on all of his posts. I guess I'm not surprised she's not the only bitch you're fucking with. And if you try lying, I'm going to spill the tea. Like, I just think that it's really funny how females just think that their men are so loyal, even when you literally expose their man with every piece of evidence. Well, the girl who sent this in has a special message for all of us. I promise you that men ain't shit. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk.
Story of the time I got into a fight with an old lady. So in my neighborhood, we have a community pool. And I live with my parents in a 55 and over community, so all the people that go to the pool are usually over 55. But since I'm over the age of 19, I'm allowed to live in this community with my parents. And all the residents of this community get an ID card with a picture of their face on it, so they can get into the gym and the pool, etc. And that includes me, because I'm a resident. So one day I went to the pool by myself, like I usually did. I wasn't being disruptive, I wasn't playing music, nothing. I was just getting my tan on, and this old fart comes up to me, and she goes, "Excuse me, you can't be here." And I was like, excuse me? Who are you? And she was like, "I'm a resident of this community." And I was like, "Okay, so am I." And she was like, "Show me your ID card." And I was like, "Wait, do you own the pool or something? Do you work here?" And she was like, "No, but I'll call somebody down so they can kick you out." And I was like, "Sorry, Karen, but I come here almost every single day to tan because I live here and I'm allowed to." So just to shut her up, I show her my ID card. Grandma Sue tried to say it was a fake ID card. I live in a 55 and up community with my parents, so most of the people that live there are 55 and up. So most of the people that go to the pool are 55 and up also. So this lady comes up to me saying that I need to get out of her pool, and I don't belong there because I'm not a resident, which I am a resident. So I show her my ID card, and I'm like, "Look, I'm a resident. I can be here if I want to." So she takes the ID card out of my hand and starts running around to all her old Karen friends and is like, "Oh my God, look at this fake ID card. She really made a fake ID card to get into our pool." And I was like, "Listen, Betty, if I wanted to make a fake ID card to get into some pool, do you really think I'm gonna come to one that smells like farts and death? No! Do you think I want your husband Wilfred breaking his neck and possibly his hip every time I walk by? No! I would at least get a fake ID card to some fancy schmancy pool. Like, why would I get one to some old fart community?" And she was like, "Oh, have some respect for your elders." I was like, "You don't respect me, I don't respect you." I took my card and walked away.
Am I the asshole for backing out of attending my son's wedding because his brother isn't invited? I have two sons, Isaiah, 22, and Daniel, 24. They had a great childhood together for typical siblings and disagreements, but nothing out of the ordinary. They grew up in a big family with loving grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins on both sides. However, as they entered their teenage years, they started resenting each other for outside reasons because there were no issues at home. Daniel was seeing a young lady when he was 20. It was his high school sweetheart, even after school, that he planned to get engaged to, but it never happened because Isaiah lied to her about Daniel stealing from her parents, and she and her parents believed him. It turned out Isaiah was the one who stole the jewelry from Daniel's ex-girlfriend's parents' house and pinned it to Daniel. As a result, her parents filed a police report, and Daniel suffered from the lie Isaiah told to get back at him for selling his bike that originally belonged to Daniel. They were both legally adults when this happened, and we were told to stay out of their conflict, but we couldn't help but get caught up in the middle. Eventually, the boys stopped seeing or talking to each other. Daniel lives in a rental apartment while Isaiah is still in college. Both boys are in contact with me and the family. Daniel is getting married this month. He sent me, his dad, and everyone else in the family an invitation except for Isaiah. I called Daniel to ask since I assumed he probably didn't send Isaiah an invitation but expected him to accompany me and my husband. He told me no, he intended to not invite his brother because he doesn't want him at his wedding. I felt heavy because Isaiah already apologized and sought forgiveness and gave Daniel time and space to reconcile, but Daniel kept ignoring him, saying he wanted nothing to do with him. I explained how I felt that he was being too harsh on his brother, and he told me not to pressure him about it and to respect his decision. I didn't pressure him, but I informed him that since Isaiah isn't invited, then I'm not coming to the wedding. Daniel threw a fit about how I was trying to corner him into having Isaiah, but I replied that I wasn't. Am I the asshole for not letting my husband go on a postponed bachelor party trip? One of my husband's closest friends got married in a courthouse ceremony last year. They debated postponing their entire ceremony, but decided to just do a courthouse wedding to save money. They threw a smallish reception-like party in their backyard to celebrate with friends and family instead. Since they also both had to cancel their bachelor and bachelorette parties, they decided to use some of the money they saved from the wedding to go on trips with their friends. My husband's friend decided he wanted to go to Vegas. He sent out an email to everyone invited detailing the trip. His friend would book and pay for an entire villa suite, so the only thing the attendees would have to pay for would be airfare and spending cash. When my husband told me about it, he was so excited as he's never been to Vegas, and this seemed like the perfect trip since his friend was covering a huge expense. However, we have 2 young kids at home, a 3-year-old and a 6-week-old newborn. The trip is in 6 weeks, and my husband's friend wants for sure answers on who is going by the end of this week so he can finalize the reservations. I told my husband I don't want him to go because I need his help at home. He pretty much begged me, but I did not give in. I do not think I can handle the needs of both kids all by myself. Neither of us have family nearby, and I'm pretty much estranged from all of my family anyways. The only real option we have for help is his mom, and she lives 3,000 miles away. He offered to pay for her to come stay to help, but I told him we couldn't afford it, which he should know. Also, I was upset that he thought we had the money to pay for this at all. We have 2 kids. We shouldn't be spending our money on gambling party trips. I pretty much put my foot down and told my husband he cannot go and there is nothing he can do to convince me that he should or that it's even an idea worth entertaining. He is still trying to convince me and come up with ideas. The asshole for very rarely, almost never wanting to go to restaurants because my girlfriend makes food that's just as good, if not better, than restaurant food. I've been with my wonderful girlfriend for a few years now, and we usually get along great, aside from this current issue. She's a self-proclaimed foodie, which I honestly think is just selling herself short. She is a food genius. She can taste and smell a dish and then turn around and recreate it or even make it better than the original. If you taste something and wonder, what's that super subtle flavor? She'll tell you. It's anchovy paste, sumnak, lavender, some other obscure spice that you would never think of. When someone is cooking something and they go, it's missing something, she can tell you exactly what it needs. It doesn't stop there. She knew I had touched a diesel truck at work one morning as soon as I walked into the house that night because she could somehow smell it on me. It's either really cool or really creepy, depending on the day. That's not it either. She heard about a lost family recipe and the next week, bam, I'm eating my grandmother's homemade sausage again for the first time in 15 years. It's gotten to the point where I don't see any point in going out to eat, pretty much ever, except maybe her birthday. Even the most exotic ingredients aren't out of her reach either. And even though it's not about cost, I've saved up more being with her than I ever have in any of my other relationships. The only places we really go for date nights is ramen. She can't figure out how to make the noodles, but she still tries, so it's just a matter of time. and sushi. Our anniversary was recently, and I had noticed that our local fish counter was selling sushi-grade fish, along with the rolling mats and nori. So I suggested that we have homemade sushi for our anniversary dinner before going out, and she got upset and said, "I'm not learning how to make sushi because then I'll never get a real..."
Okay, I'm going to do a story time about how I found out my husband was fucking his cousin. Okay, so I worked nights at a hospital before I retired. So on my way to work that night, or before I left going to work, my tire was flat on my car. So I had to drive one of my husband's cars. So as I was adjusting his seat to fit me to be able to drive it, I felt something underneath the seat. So I reached under, pulled it up, and it was a camera. So I just put it on the seat and went on to work. So once I got to work, I went and clocked in, started my day or whatever. Lunchtime, I took the camera roll down to the pharmacy in the hospital and got the film developed. Okay, I went back down later on to pick the camera roll up. Yeah, the pharmacist looking at me all upside my head, but okay. So I get the camera roll, I go out to my car, and I'm sitting down, I'm going through some pictures of my husband and him at a party. You know, a lot of family and, you know, different people over there. And so I noticed a couple pictures of him and this one cousin. They, you know, it ain't looking like no cousin stuff going on with them. So I keep going, you know, through the camera roll, this and that, blah, blah. And then I'm looking at a picture that looks like my bed. Yeah, my bed. And the girl is sitting up on the bed. Her bottom half of her clothes is off, but I can still see the top and the jewelry that she had on the bed. Now, mind you, my husband has his finger, yes, his finger inside of her. And the reason why I know it was his finger is because he had a burn on his hand that he had did a couple weeks prior to that, so it was still fresh on his hand. So when I got off work, of course, I'm pissed, but I text her from his phone once I got off work just to confirm, okay? All right? And she texts back some not so stuff that people that are cousins shouldn't be texting back. So, hey, so I called her mama and everybody in their family and told them, y'all always talking about, oh, she too bougie. She act the way she act, this and that. She don't like us. You think? I knew something wasn't right about this shit. I knew it. All y'all at the family reunions and this and that and blah, 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 da, da, da. And you fucking your cousin? Yeah. This is the way I act the way I act. Yeah. This happened. Yeah.
Story time on how I found out my dad had a whole nother family through social media. I'm talking wife and kids. Okay, so my mom and dad met when I was 3, but I could always recall him always being there in my life. So technically, he's my stepdad. They got married, and then 2 years later, my sister was born. In another 3 years, my twin brothers, Trey and Tyrese. On my 17th birthday is when everything came out. Around that time, my mom was 4 months pregnant, and I had posted a picture on MySpace of me and my family at my birthday dinner. Also, I forgot to mention, I wasn't even allowed to have social media. I didn't even have a phone, but I had a computer, but my parents didn't know I had a MySpace account. I think maybe a week after the post, I get a comment from a random person under the name of Sunshine. They say, "Hey, that's my dad. Are you his cousin or niece? We should talk." The profile pic was a picture of flowers. When I saw the comment, I was a little weirded out, but so I posted my birthday picture. A week later, I get a comment saying, "Hey, that's my dad. Are you his cousin or niece? We should talk." Me being the investigator that I am, I went through the page, but they really had no pictures, nothing, just pictures of flowers. So I started thinking maybe they probably meant to put that underneath somebody else's post. 2 months go by, and I make another post for Mother's Day. It's a pic of me and my mom and my dad in the corner photobombing. Within 5 minutes of the post, I get another comment from that Sunshine account saying, "I think we might be cousins." I was a bit suspicious about the account, so I went to my friends about it. When I showed my friend Deja, she said, "Ignore it, because if you show your parents, they'll probably take your computer away because you have a MySpace account." My other friend Alice said maybe y'all could be related, so you should reach out to the page. Later that night, I was feeling very anxious, so I messaged that account, and you're not even going to believe what they told me. So I messaged that fake Sunshine account and asked why did they keep making those comments underneath my post. They messaged back 2 hours later saying you were posting pictures of my dad. I responded back, "No, that's my dad." Then they sent me a picture of a girl with my dad. I was like, "Who's that other girl?" They responded, "Me." I was like, "No, you're a fake page." And she responded with another picture, but with my dad and a whole nother woman and 3 kids, including the girl. When I saw that, I shut my computer down, and later that day, I went to my friends to show them. They were so surprised, and I asked them what I should do. Deja was like, "Don't do anything. If you do, your family is going to fall apart." Alice butts in and just tells Deja to shut up. She was like, "Yo, you got another sister. Don't you want to know who she is?" I replied, "No." Alice was like, you should tell your mom. Deja was saying no. And they was just arguing back and forth whether or not if I should say anything. Come back for part 4.